sending someone to protect you. Okay? Not always with armor, not always with strength, but sometimes with words, with wisdom, with warning. Protection is not always a wall. It can be a door that refuses to open. Sometimes the greatest rescue is when you are stopped, delayed, or turned away. God is sending someone to provide for you, but provision does not always arrive in gold or in plenty. It may come as daily bread, as a friend's kindness, as an opportunity disguised as struggle. Provision is not luxury. It is sufficiency. It is the exact thing you need, at the exact moment you need it. And God is sending someone to relocate you, because not every soil can grow your roots. You are not abandoned when you are uprooted. You are being replanted. Relocation is never punishment. It is preparation. You are shifted so that your destiny may unfold where it was meant to. The one sent may not look like a rescuer. They may appear ordinary, unnoticed, unexpected. But within them is the answer you prayed for. Do not despise small beginnings. Do not overlook simple helpers. God often hides his greatest gifts in plain sight. The timing will not be yours. You cannot demand the hour, nor set the season. Help will not arrive early, nor will it be late. It comes precisely when endurance has done its work, because timing is sacred, and destiny is never rushed. And your role, your only role, is trust the hand that protects you, even when it blocks your way. Trust the provision, even when it looks too small. Trust the relocation, even when it feels like loss. Trust the person sent, even when they do not fit your expectation. For the truth is this: you are not forgotten, you are not left behind, you are being shielded, you are being sustained, you are being moved into destiny. God is sending someone to protect you. God is sending someone to provide for you. God is sending someone to relocate you. And when they come, your story will never be the same. Protection is not always obvious. Okay? We imagine safety as something loud, something visible, something undeniable. But the truth is, protection often wears ordinary clothes. Okay? It looks less like a soldier standing guard and more like a closed door that you wished was open. And it looks less like a miracle and more like a delay that saved you from disaster. We often complain about interruptions: the train that was missed, the meeting that was canceled, the friendship that ended too soon. Okay. But have you considered that what you call inconvenience may actually be intervention? That what you call rejection may be redirection? That what you call loss may be the shield you never saw? Okay. A storm does not always announce itself before it strikes. Sometimes danger is already on the way before you sense it. And yet, unseen hands are already moving pieces around you, moving people out of your life, blocking paths you thought you needed, slowing down your journey so you arrive at the right place at the right time. Protection is not always a shield. Sometimes it is a detour. When a child runs toward the street, the parent does not explain the danger first. And they simply grab the child, pull them back, and the child cries. The child feels robbed of freedom. But the parent knows they just saved a life. In the same way, what feels like restraint in your life may actually be protection. You feel pulled back, but you were seconds away from danger. You feel held down, but you were steps away from harm. Sometimes protection arrives as silence. The call you wanted never came. The opportunity you begged for never answered. And you thought you were ignored. But silence itself was your rescue, because not every voice deserves to reach your ears. Okay? Not every table deserves your presence. Not every open door leads to safety. We look for protection in strength, but sometimes protection hides in weakness. The weakness that kept you from rushing ahead. The weakness that slowed you down long enough to avoid disaster. The weakness that forced you to lean on others, and in leaning, You avoided a trap meant for the proud. Okay. Even your limits can be a shield. You think safety means always winning. Okay. But protection sometimes means losing what was never yours. Eh? The job you didn't get protected you from a future that would have drained your soul. Yeah? The relationship that broke your heart spared you from years of hidden pain. And the opportunity that slipped away cleared the path for something greater. Losing is not always defeat. Sometimes losing is saving. There are battles you were never meant to fight. There are wounds you were never meant to carry. And there are scars you never had to explain because you were spared before they reached you. Account. But because the danger was invisible, so too was the rescue. And that is why protection often feels unrecognized. It does not shout, it whispers, it does not display itself, it hides, and yet you are still here, still breathing, still standing. Kent. Because protection was around you even when you did not see it. You walked away from accidents you never knew were waiting. You survived attacks you never knew were planned. You overcame storms that never touched you because they were redirected before they reached your path. The unseen is not unreal. The uncelebrated is not unimportant. Your life has been saved more times than you will ever count, not by chance, not by luck, but by deliberate protection, woven into delays, disappointments, and detours. What felt like resistance was really rescue. Yeah. What looked like rejection was really preservation. Okay. So when you look at your past, do not only count the doors that opened, count also the ones that stayed shut. Do not only thank the people who arrived, thank also the ones who left. Do not only celebrate the paths you took, acknowledge the ones you were never allowed to walk, because protection is not always obvious, but it is always present. Protection may not always be obvious, and in the same way, provision may not always appear the way you imagine. We picture provision as abundance, as overflow, as a table filled with everything we asked for. But true provision is rarely glamorous. It is often simple. It is often small. It is often disguised. We pray for breakthroughs, but sometimes provision comes as endurance. We pray for strength, but provision comes as rest. We pray for wealth, but provision comes as wisdom that saves us from wasting what we already have. Provision is not always more. Sometimes provision is management. Sometimes provision is discipline. Sometimes provision is contentment. Think of the stories we overlook. A widow who thought she had nothing left but a jar of oil. A boy with only 5 loaves and 2 fish. A barren land that produced manna in the morning. In each case, the provision was already present, but it was hidden in what looked small. It did not look like enough, but it became more than enough. How often have we dismissed what was meant to sustain us? We call a friend's advice too simple. We call a job too small. We call an opportunity too ordinary. But sometimes provision hides in the things we quickly despise. The water in your hand is the very thing that quenches your thirst. The bread you overlook is the very thing that carries you to tomorrow. Provision does not always increase your possessions. Sometimes it multiplies your perspective. The right insight can save you years of wondering. The right word can spare you from a costly mistake. The right connection can open doors that money cannot buy. Provision is not always material. It is mental, emotional, relational. The wealth you need may not be in your hands. It may be in your mind, in your circle, in your wisdom. There are moments when provision comes through people. A stranger who helps you when no one else notices. A mentor who believes in you when you doubt yourself. A neighbor who shows kindness when you least deserve it. They may not look wealthy, but they carry what you need. They may not hold riches, but they hold keys. They may not look powerful, but they hold words that keep you alive. And sometimes provision comes through loss. The job you thought you could not live without ended, but in its ending, a new door opened. The relationship that left you empty made space for something whole. Right? A plan that collapsed forced you to create a better one. Losing can be provision too, because it strips away what distracts and reveals what sustains. We often miss provision because we measure it by size. We think small is insignificant. We think ordinary is unworthy. You know, but history shows us that small things often carry the greatest weight. A seed looks powerless until it becomes a tree. A spark looks useless until it becomes a fire. A word looks small until it reshapes a life. A provision begins as little, but little is not lack. It is preparation. And notice this, provision often matches the season. When you needed encouragement, you did not receive money. You received words. When you needed guidance, you did not receive applause. You received correction. And when you needed survival, you did not receive plenty. You received enough. Provision fits the need of the moment. It arrives in the exact measure, at the exact time, for the exact purpose. This is why gratitude matters. Because without gratitude, provision looks like insufficiency. You call it too small. You call it not enough. You know? You call it unfair, but gratitude turns what little you have into recognition of what it really is, your lifeline. And gratitude is what allows you to see bread as blessing, oil as abundance, fish as miracle. Provision is not always a treasure chest falling from the sky. It is not always sudden wealth or instant success. It is often the steady drip that keeps you alive, the quiet help that keeps you moving, the unnoticed supply that keeps you breathing. It may not look like plenty, so do not overlook the small. Do not despise the ordinary. Do not curse the limited, for in them lies your provision. And when the time is right, what once looked like scraps will be revealed as strategy. What once looked like lack will be revealed as life. Because provision does not always come in the form you expected, but it always comes. When provision comes in unlikely forms, it does not always come where you stand. Sometimes the provision is not in your hands because it was never meant to be found in your current place. Sometimes the supply you seek is waiting in another field, another city, another season. And that is why relocation is purposeful. You cannot always stay where you are and expect growth. Tanka. A seed cannot remain in dry ground and expect to live. It must be moved, planted, and repositioned into soil that can sustain it. What looks like uprooting is not destruction. It is transition. The hand that moves you is not against you. It is preparing you. We resist relocation because it feels like loss. We grow attached to familiar places, familiar people, familiar routines, but not every environment can carry your destiny. Not every circle can nurture your growth. Not every land can produce your harvest. Staying in the wrong place too long can starve the very dream you were meant to live. Consider the times when doors closed around you. The job ended, the friendship dissolved. The community no longer felt like home. You thought you were abandoned, but perhaps you were being transitioned. And perhaps what looked like rejection was actually release. Perhaps what looked like displacement was actually redirection. Provision often waits in the place you fear to enter. The new land, the new opportunity, the new challenge. This is where your growth hides. But to reach it, you must be willing to leave where you are. Uprooting is painful, but so is staying in soil that no longer nourishes you. Remaining in comfort can cost you more than stepping into uncertainty. Relocation is not always physical. Sometimes it is the shifting of your mindset, the movement of your perspective, the change in how you see yourself, your worth, your potential. Because even if you move to a new place, if your mind remains trapped in the old one, you will never thrive. Uh, Relocation must begin within before it is completed without. Okay. Think of the stories of those who were moved before they understood why. Okay. A person denied in one city, but celebrated in another. A business rejected in one season, but flourishing in the next. A dream ignored in one environment, but valued in a new one. The place matters, the timing matters, the soil matters. Okay? We often pray for increase, but forget that increase requires space. Okay? And sometimes the space cannot be found in the old ground. Okay? A plant kept in a small pot will wither no matter how much water it receives. The roots need room, and the branches need air, the seed needs new soil. Relocation is the expansion that allows provision to manifest. Notice how even discomfort can be an invitation to move. When you no longer feel at peace in the old environment, when what once satisfied now leaves you empty, and when the doors around you keep shutting no matter how hard you knock, these are not accidents. They are signals. Signals that your season has shifted. Signals that it is time to move. But relocation does not mean abandoning purpose. It means aligning with it. The mission does not change, the location does. The calling remains, the environment adapts. And you are not losing identity. You are stepping into fulfillment. To cling to the wrong place out of fear is to deny the very provision you prayed for. And sometimes relocation feels like exile before it feels like blessing. Yeah, because the new land does not feel like home at first. It feels strange. It feels lonely. It feels uncertain. Yeah, but in time, the same soil that felt foreign becomes the ground of your flourishing. Again, the place you feared becomes the place you were always meant to be. So, understand this. The move is not random, it is not meaningless, it is not without reason. You are not being scattered, you are being planted, you are not being punished, you are being prepared, you are not being lost, you are being positioned, because relocation is never accidental. It is always purposeful. When relocation is purposeful, the journey often requires help beyond yourself. You are not designed to reach destiny alone. You know? And that is why people are instruments. The hand that moves, you may look divine, but it often works through human touch. Yeah. The door you walk through may look like chance, but it often swings open by someone else's key. Kang? The provision you receive may look like luck, but it often arrives through another person's sacrifice. Kent. We are connected, and those connections carry pieces of our purpose. The ones sent to you may not look extraordinary. They may not wear titles. Connect? They may not hold positions of power. They may even appear weaker than you. Yet within them lies the one word, one opportunity, one act of kindness that shifts your entire direction. Never underestimate the weight carried by ordinary people. We often expect help to come from those above us, from leaders, from the wealthy, from the influential. But help often comes from beside us, and from friends who refuse to give up on us, from strangers who appear at the right moment, from people we overlooked until their presence saved us. The hand of destiny often reaches through unexpected instruments. Do not despise small acts of kindness, the meal shared with you when you were hungry, the ride given when you had no way home, the advice spoken when you were lost. These were not accidents. S- Yeah, they were threads woven into the fabric of your survival. Provision does not only flow from heaven, it flows through human hands. And yet, not every instrument is comfortable. Sometimes the person sent to you does not look like a friend. They challenge you. They correct you. They correct you. Yeah, they push you out of comfort. Their role is not to flatter, but to shape. Their gift is not to soothe, but to sharpen. Even those who trouble you can be instruments of your growth. Relocation will sometimes feel lonely, but even in loneliness, people arrive. The right voices enter at the right time. And the right helpers appear in the right season. The right mentors stand in the right place. You were not meant to navigate alone, and the journey confirms this by sending companions you did not plan for. But there is another truth. People can also be protection. A warning spoken by a friend saved you from disaster. A refusal spoken by a loved one kept you from destruction. A boundary drawn by someone you trusted preserved your life. Protection, provision, relocation, all are often carried out through people. The instrument is human, but the melody is divine. You know? The challenge is that we do not always recognize them. We dismiss those who look ordinary. We reject those who speak uncomfortable truths. We avoid those who challenge our patterns. And in doing so, we miss the very instruments sent for our rescue, because the help you need may not look the way you expected. Think about it. The teacher who saw potential in you when you doubted yourself. And the parent who worked silently so you could have opportunities they never had. The colleague who spoke your name in a room you never entered. These were not coincidences. These were instruments. People carrying what you could not give yourself. Sometimes the person sent is there only for a season. And they do not stay forever. They arrive, play their note, and then exit. And that is not betrayal. It is completion. Their part in your song was never meant to last forever. Their role was temporary, but their impact was eternal. You are not meant to cling to every instrument. You are meant to value the sound they played. But there is also responsibility. And because just as people are instruments to you, you are an instrument to someone else. Your encouragement may save them. Your generosity may sustain them. Your wisdom may guide them. Your presence may protect them. The instrument works both ways. You receive and you give. You are helped and you help. The melody of destiny is a shared song. So when you think of provision and relocation, remember this, it will rarely happen in isolation. Yeah. Someone will always be part of the process. Someone will always carry a piece of the answer. And that someone may already be standing beside you, because people are not just companions. They are instruments. And when the right instrument plays at the right time, everything changes. When people are instruments, they never play out of tune with destiny. They arrive when they are meant to arrive. They depart when they are meant to depart, because timing is sacred. You cannot force a seed to grow before its season. You cannot demand a harvest in the middle of winter. And you cannot rush destiny before its appointed hour. Timing is the unseen law that governs the unfolding of your life. We grow impatient because we confuse waiting with wasting. We think delay means denial. We think silence means rejection. But waiting is not absence. It is alignment. Silence is not neglect. It is preparation. Okay? What feels like nothing happening is often everything being arranged. Okay? Think of the people who entered your life at the exact moment you needed them. You did not plan it. Right? You did not schedule it, but the timing was perfect. Had they come earlier, you would not have been ready. Cats. Had they come later, it would have been too late. Okay. The sacredness of timing is revealed in the precision of these moments. We often want blessings on demand, but a gift received too soon can destroy you. Yeah. A position accepted too early can crush you. An opportunity taken before maturity can ruin you. Can't. Even good things in the wrong time can become harmful. Yeah. That is why timing protects you as much as it promotes you. Winka. When the right time arrives, doors open without effort. Opportunities flow without resistance. Connections happen without force. It feels natural, not forced. It feels smooth, not strained. Because destiny never struggles against its own schedule. Waiting, however, is the hardest test. We see others moving faster. We see others receiving sooner. and we feel left behind. But comparison blinds us to the truth. Everyone has their own appointed hour. Kent, the fact that someone else received now does not mean you are late. Okay. It only means your season has not yet arrived. The sacredness of timing is also revealed in endings. When people leave, when chapters close, when opportunities expire, it feels like loss, but in truth, it is rhythm. The ending is as sacred as the beginning. The departure is as divine as the arrival. Because the song of destiny is not made of one note, but of many, play in sequence, in season. Sometimes we beg for things that we are not ready to handle. We pray for relationships when we are not whole. We pray for positions when we lack discipline. We pray for success when we have not built character. And in mercy, the answer is not yet. The refusal is not punishment. It is protection. The delay is not cruelty. It is care. The sacredness of timing ensures you will not destroy what you were meant to enjoy. But timing is not passive. It requires trust, but it also requires preparation. Waiting is not sitting idle. It is building silently. It is sharpening your tools before the door opens. It is cultivating your heart before the opportunity arrives. It is strengthening your roots before the storm tests them. When the time comes, you must be ready, and readiness is built in waiting. Consider how even pain obeys timing. You suffered seasons that you thought would never end. But notice this, even sorrow had an expiration date. Okay? The night eventually broke into morning. The storm eventually gave way to calm. The wound eventually turned into wisdom. Nothing lasts forever, not even pain. Timing is sacred, even in suffering. And when the moment finally comes, it does not announce itself with trumpets. It often feels ordinary. A meeting that seemed casual, a decision that seemed small, a step that seemed insignificant. But later you realize that was the turning point. That was the moment everything shifted. The sacredness of timing's revealed not in its drama, but in its quiet precision. So understand this. The unfolding of your life is not random. The delays are not wasted. The waiting is not empty. The departures are not accidents. The arrivals are not coincidences. Every moment is arranged. Every season is intentional. Every second is sacred, because timing is never wrong when destiny is directing the clock. When timing is sacred, your role is not to control the clock. Your role is trust. Trust is not passive. It is active surrender. It is choosing to rest when everything in you wants to rush. It is choosing to believe when everything in you wants to doubt. It is choosing to hold on when everything in you wants to quit. Trust is not weakness. It is strength that looks quiet. We think trust means having all the answers. But real trust begins when the answers are missing, when the path is unclear, when the outcome is uncertain, and when the waiting feels unbearable. That is where trust lives, not in clarity, but in mystery. Yeah. Trust is what keeps you steady when protection is invisible. You do not always see the dangers you were spared from, yet you keep walking. You do not always understand why the door was closed, yet you remain thankful. Yeah. You do not always see the full picture, yet you move with faith that there is one. Hank? Trust is believing that the unseen is still working for you. Trust is what allows you to value provision even when it looks small. Okay? The jar of oil that does not run out, the loaves and fish that stretch further than logic, the simple act of kindness that sustains you in your darkest day. Trust accepts the little, because trust knows little is never truly little. It is the seed of something greater. Trust is what gives you courage to accept relocation, because leaving what is familiar feels terrifying. Okay? But trust says, if I am being moved, I am being moved with purpose. Okay? If the soil no longer feeds me, another soil waits to grow me. If this season has ended, another season waits to begin. Trust steps out even when the destination is unknown. Trust is what opens your heart to people as instruments, because not every helper looks like a helper. Some arrive disguised as challenges. Some arrive carrying words that cut before they heal. Yeah? Some arrive carrying burdens that stretch your capacity. Okay? But trust says, even in the unexpected, something good is being shaped in me. Even in the difficult, something necessary is being delivered to me. Trust is what steadies you when timing feels unbearable. Because sacred timing rarely matches your own. You want it now, but trust whispers, not yet. You want the answer immediately, but trust whispers, wait. You want to skip the process. But trust whispers, the process is the point. Trust does not argue with time, it learns to walk with it. Trust requires humility because it forces you to admit that you are not in control, that you cannot predict every outcome, that you cannot carry every burden alone. And humility is not humiliation, it is liberation. It frees you from the illusion of control. It frees you from the weight of certainty. It frees you from the fear of the unknown. Trust is tested in silence, when prayers seem unanswered, when help seems delayed, when nothing appears to be moving. In those moments, trust feels like foolishness. But it is in those very moments that trust proves itself as wisdom. Because silence does not mean absence. Delay does not mean denial. Stillness does not mean nothing is happening. It only means the unseen is still unfolding. Trust is not blind. It sees differently. It looks beyond what is visible. It listens beyond what is audible. It believes beyond what is reasonable. Trust is not ignoring reality. It is embracing a greater reality. One that says, even here, even now, I am not abandoned. Even in the dark, there is light guiding me. And even in uncertainty, there is order holding me. Trust is what carries you when strength fails. It whispers, keep going. It whispers, don't give up. It whispers, your story is not finished. It whispers, what you cannot see is already on the way. And trust does not silence fear. It teaches you to walk through it. Yeah. Trust does not remove questions. It gives you peace without answers. Your role is not to control everything. Your role is not to predict everything. Your role is not to fight everything. Your role is trust. Yeah. To trust protection even when it feels like loss. To trust provision even when it feels too small. Yeah. To trust relocation even when it feels unfair. To trust people even when they feel unexpected. Okay? To trust timing even when it feels late. And above all, to trust that none of it is random. Okay? Because trust is the only role that unlocks every other promise.